we take revenue into the jail for canteen items. That would be like jail expenditures where inmates purchase phone cards or canteen items, which, you know, like snacks and things like that. Those aren't huge money makers, however, they certainly do bring in revenue. The largest revenue source for the jail is out-of-county inmates. I believe state inmates, I think are, around $51 a day. That is what the county takes in to house a state inmate. For a federal inmate, it's around $50 a day. However, when you take on a state inmate, you also take on additional burdens. You take on health care. You take on their mental health, those kind of things. So you run the risk with a state inmate at $51 a day. Hope you have healthy inmates. You have someone or two that have issues, whether that be, you know, emotionally, mentally, physically, and they need health care or whatever care they need. The county has to absorb that. So economically, or the most cost-effective inmate would be to target federal inmates. They come at $50 a day, $1 less a day, however, they don't come with that extra baggage. So
that's where the extra revenue would be coming from more inmates than expected? So you can't contract for a specific number, or you just don't know year to year?
Well, my understanding is there is a projected contract number. However, that's not set in stone. And my understanding over the years has been that, you know, for example, you might have agreements set where Columbia County would receive 100 inmates over the course of a year from the state, or whatever the number would be. And that's not always, I mean, that's not something to, you just need to plan conservatively. That's not a guarantee. Yeah, for example.
Is it up to 100? I mean, up to
No,
100?
100 is just the number that I threw out.
Well, whatever it might be. I mean, I guess I'm kind of curious how this contract works. Is it just saying, hey, Columbia County, we're going to give you a certain amount of inmates, or is it a specific number? Or what's the contract say if you have a contract with the state that's going to provide you with inmates in your...
Well, see, I guess I don't know. The way I understand it, the way it's been told to me, and my limited roles there with that, is that my understanding of state contracts and or federal contracts for that matter, is that the state and the Fed also project their numbers based on averages over the years. And the Fed's a little different because with mandatory sentencing, you generally know your numbers. You can I think it's a more safer projection for them. Not that the state doesn't have that ability, but I guess that's my opinion, is that I think the Fed is more reliable for getting those projections. So I'm not sure if it's a situation where they say, you know, we would house up to 100 inmates with you. I don't know how that's worded, to be exact. But I know that, I mean, I already know, just because of the fact I work there, I mean, and have some knowledge of, and I'm not in the jail on a daily basis, but I know that 2011, it's projected 0 inmates, from state inmates.
So is that just a reality of the times? Because the state is, I'm assuming, why is it 0? I guess let me turn it that way.
I don't know the exact reason why it's 0. I have my suspicions.
I think it was significantly more than that. I think we actually had the numbers at some point, but it was clearly a lot more than 0. I think that's.
Oh, certainly. Matter of fact, I don't think there's. I mean, in my 13 years, I don't really think there's ever been a year where there's been 0.
Are you alluding to the Department of Corrections rules changes that is asking? They're asking county jails that take state inmates to also take those who have violated their extended supervision.
Well, that is part of that risk I was talking about with a state inmate. Whereas, it sounds like you understand how that works. You know, the state were to do an early release program or something with a state inmate, and they're out in the street and they violate the conditions of their parole or whatever their conditions are, they get taken in and housed at the county level. And the county has to absorb those costs. I'm assuming that's,
That is what the Department of Corrections is asking of state, of.
yeah, and you know, that's a huge risk. Huge risk, because you don't know what you're getting. Not that you really know what you're getting with any state inmate, but you get one right off the street, you have no idea if this guy or gal or whatever is, it's a huge risk. You could get stuck with a huge lump of baggage.
But the county's compensated for those inmates, isn't it?
Compensated at $50 a day, or 51, I'm sorry. They're not compensated for those medical costs that are incurred by the county, because once they become custody of the county assumes all care, which is like similar to taking the whole state and federal, the whole, you know, inmate shifting out of the picture and just look at it more of a local level of a local inmate. I don't know, Mr. Smith gets arrested on the street for whatever the offense is, and Mr. Smith comes into the jail. Maybe he's just coming in and he'll be released the next day. Something happens to him in the course that he's in the jail, we assume all medical costs. He becomes, I guess, under all the care of the county. You're not reimbursed for that. I mean, those are expenses that you cannot plan for.
Let me back up even farther than that. I guess there's an assumption that there's something wrong at the jail. I mean, that's kind of, I guess, some of the underlying conversations, some of the, obviously, when you kind of look at this. So, financially, I guess, might be the better way to put it, financially wrong at the jail. Do you agree with that, or what is the problem? What is the problem if there is one at the jail?
What I think is the issue that I think you're alluding to is the fact that the jail is experiencing rising costs. Costs that, like we talked about earlier, many of which are uncontrollable rises. Simple day-to-day living expenses, things of that nature. That coupled with the fact of decreasing out-of-county inmate numbers. Obviously, those two in combination provide the image that inmate numbers are down and staffing levels are up. However, I don't quite agree 100% with that. You can't argue that the fixed costs are rising. Okay. Personally, I believe that they fluctuate. I don't believe it's the first time they've ever risen. You know, I don't want to sound irresponsible because I don't have the ability to back that up. But I try to associate it to everyday living, my home, my life. There's always costs, like the cost of gas, is an example. It's always going up and down, and it's always floating around like this. We experience that in the jail as well. Now, it happens to be quite the peak at the moment. What the exact peak is, I don't know, or what the spike is, but that associated with the fact that we are losing inmates, state inmates that provide that additional revenue that over the years has offset those costs. That's what's created this image that like something's broken.
So
I don't believe that there's something broken at the Columbia County Jail. It's a matter of being creative at this point and managing it and seeking out ways, creative ways to offset those costs.
the whole issue with out-of-county inmates, be it from other counties, be it inmates being brought in, was that just kind of a trend that has gone away? I mean, it seems like there's a lot of counties were sending some of their inmates elsewhere, or the state, was trying to do that. I guess, is that something that's not in vogue anymore, and that's why it's gone away, or is Columbia County just missing out on something that other counties are still taking advantage of?
Well, I think probably both. I don't know the exact time frame of year to year when that whole shift turned to, housing out of county inmates. At what point did law enforcement and corrections, local corrections, turn into, a huge money-making venture? Is that the purpose of the sheriff when statutorily to create and maintain a local jail. I don't think necessarily our forefathers meant for it to be, you know, a money-making venture. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that we shouldn't seek those things out, because those are extra things that we can do to offset costs, to help manage the entire budget per se. However, like I said, I think it's both. I believe inmate numbers are generally down. I think that both at the state and federal level, you've seen more, at least I believe I've seen more outreach type programs, more work release type programs, more bracelet type, go out on the bracelet kind of thing. I think those were creative ways not too many years ago that folks came up with, sitting down, trying to figure out what are cost-effective ways at our local level, at the state level, at the federal level. It's still tax dollars, just at a different level. So times are tight all the way around. And kudos to those folks years ago at the federal level, at the state level, at the local level, who came up with those ideas. Those were good ideas. And I think that now those are the repercussions of those ideas, is that, you cut your costs at here, here, and here. However, you don't have that coming back around. So now it's time to take another close look at that and reevaluate that whole picture.